Good evening, my dear friends, and welcome to our 10 p.m. soiree on Celtic Monasticism. And I welcome you to part 11 on simple lifestyles. But before we begin, I would like to light a candle for global peace and interspiritual unity within the whole family of God, for they too are our brothers and sisters. And I begin with the Celtic benediction. You may be familiar with it because we have read it several times in previous recordings. Deep peace, pure white of the moon to you. Deep peace, pure green of the grass to you. Deep peace, pure brown of the earth to you. Deep peace, pure grey of the dew to you. Deep peace, pure blue of the sky to you. Deep peace of the running wave to you. Deep peace of the flowing air to you. Deep peace of the quiet earth to you. Deep peace of the shining stars to you. And deep peace of the Son of Peace to you. And I'm reading from a beautiful book, A Pilgrim's Way, New Celtic Monasticism for Everyday People by Ray Simpson. And our section this evening is titled Simple Lifestyle. He says, we only have one life. It is meant to be lived to the full. But such a life is hijacked by 101 things. Choice fatigue afflicts us. In a world of increasing complexity, when institutions sink under mountains of paper and endless competing demands entangle us, to adopt a simple lifestyle frees us to be effective. God made us plain and simple, but we have made ourselves very complicated, observed wise King Solomon, and that's quoted in Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 29. God has designed you and me to be simple, but not simplistic. Jesus pointed out that not even Solomon, in all his glory, had a lifestyle as glorious as that of the flowers and birds. They do not accumulate things they do not need. Jesus' message to Martha, who fussed about this and that when he visited her home, was in effect, keep it simple. And that's mentioned in detail in Luke's Gospel, chapter 10, verses 38 to 42. A simple lifestyle need not mean that we eliminate beautiful things. In a 4th century desert, Abba Mark asked Abba Arrhenius whether or not it was permissible to have something in one's cell simply because it gave pleasure. In his case, it was a wild flower he had plucked. Abba Arsenius encouraged him. The simple lifestyle we seek has nothing to do with the second rate. It is elegant simplicity. It may be asked, are we really meant to live simply? Are not some of the most worthwhile organisms in nature and in the human world also the most complex. If we are confused about this, we do well to learn from creation. Nature is complex, yet it tends towards cohesion. It brings forth the simplest of joys, a sunset, a bird's song, or a star in orbit. So to go with the grain is simplicity. To violate the deepest impulses of the heart or of nature is to become complicated. Some of the greatest scientists have had the greatest simplicity of heart. Sir Isaac Newton saw himself as a boy playing on the seashore, diverting myself by now and then, finding a smoother pebble or a prettier shell than ordinary. Nature's organisms are only as complex as they need to be. Nature sheds excess complexity. Being complex is not the same as being complicated. Our society is saddled with a bureaucracy bred of dishonesty. The Quaker William Penn observed that we can either keep the 10 Commandments of God, or we can condemn ourselves to be ruled by the 10,000 commandments of people. And regarding money and possessions, our common responsibility is to regularly hold before God and, as appropriate, to share with our soul friend our income, our savings and our possessions, conscious that we are stewards, not possessors of those things, and making them available as God requires. Simplicity is the way we handle our money, reduces stress, and creates space. Thus, a person with a bank account may choose to pay regular bills by standing order, and other bills straight away. This saves paper, time, and cost at both ends. It is best to deal with every item at the first opportunity, to handle any piece of paper only once, and to bin all we can. Debt is a bondage which holds many good people back from their calling. The apostle says, "Owe no one anything." Romans 13, verse 8. We advise all who follow this way of life to avoid unnecessary debt. It is one thing to accept a loan for a basic commodity such as a house, which is based on our ability to repay. But it is another to spend now and pay later on unnecessary purchases. If we are not already in the debt trap, it is better to reduce overheads, to live in a smaller house, rather than to allow debt to accrue. Each person will tackle this in their own way. One follower of this way has stopped using credit cards because it clouds her inner eye. I use them because it saves me writing checks. Simplicity is what we buy requires us to confront our society's addiction to shopping. Charles Kettering of General Motors once said, "The key to economic prosperity is the organized creation of dissatisfaction." Those who find satisfaction in the adventure of being guided by God do not need to be shopaholics. The less we buy, the simpler our lives will be. It is best to buy only what we need Such lists need not rule out spontaneous purchases of new or reduced items. John Wesley taught that we should earn all we can, save all we can, and give all we can. We should be responsible in providing, as we are able, for the future of ourselves and of our dependents. We should be generous in giving away what we do not need for these purposes. If we invest, we should invest in ethically sound products. We should be aware lest investments become hidden bonds that detain us because managing them takes up too much of our time, or because they take the place of God in our hearts. The test of good investment is not maximum profit, but whether the money is used in the way that does most good. If we lend, we should not demand interest. Some of us are unable to earn and are too poor to save. Others of us may be called to handle large sums of money. Yet, like the widow in Jesus' parable, Luke 21, verse 4, we should offer all that we have, asking God to meet our needs and help us to be good stewards. Some of us follow the advice in St. Columba's rule: if someone gives you something, give something away. Another person reviews everything they possess and gives or throws away everything that is not needed for any good purpose. We need a philosophy of wealth. The kept dollar is a stinking fish, Andrew Carnegie, the great American philanthropist, once said, meaning that it should be used either to make more money or to do good. Abraham tithed before Moses' law was brought in. Jesus practiced and encouraged tithing. Unless we know a better way, we do well to give a tenth of our income, if it really is ours to give, to good causes. In the Celtic tradition, the cure for meanness is to give generously, inspired by the generosity of God, which spills over into all creation. This New Testament principle was carried forward in the practice of almsgiving in the early church. Muslims have made this one of their 5 pillars, but many Christians have neglected it. Let us set no bounds to our sympathies, no limit to our self-giving. It is impossible not to notice that in some of the poorest parts of the world, most people, most of the time, appear to be happier than we are. In homes constructed from packing cases and palm leaves, people engage more freely, smile more often, express more affection than we do behind our double glazing, surrounded by remote controls. Perhaps one of the reasons is that they have less to lose by letting people into their lives. The more wealth we possess, the more isolated we become. We retreat to gated communities, hire guards, and install CCTV. The rich lock themselves in and lock everyone else out. Our belongings, activities, and relationships are ordered in a way that liberates the spirit. We cut out those things that overload or clutter the spirit. Simplicity in the way we arrange our homes and workplace not only leads to tidy homes, but also makes them safe places. Everything has its place. When we find our well-being in God, we no longer need to find our identity in acquiring and hoarding things. Uncluttered in our spirits, we remove clutter from our rooms. There is a place for things of beauty and that help us to cherish memories. Some of us steward things to hand unto others. It is best to dispose of everything else. We may share a household with others who espouse no such lifestyle. Do the best we can, starting with our own room. And about activities, Austin Farrer once said, "Do you want to bear fruit for God? Simplify your life, do fewer things, and do them well." St. Paul urges Christians to do everything in order. God is a God of order. We make time to put our affairs in order. We combat the tyranny of the telephone. It is not right to be on call day and night. It is possible to divert, record or silence phone calls. Many of us want fingers in every pie. Our soul friend helps us decide which activities, relationships, even our possessions that we must let go of. Then each activity is done with full devotion. Of course, there are short-term emergencies when other things have to pile up, but we do not allow an exception to become a norm. If necessary, we set aside specific times to clear up backlog. Now that we have access to so much information, an old challenge arises in a new form: the need to be disciplined over what we choose to know. Simplicity in our speaking and writing grows as we express what is deepest in our hearts. Jason Scott Lee, the lead actor in the 2000 revival of The King and I, says, "The idea of simplicity has been totally overlooked in our society. The hardest thing that I have learned is to honestly express myself." That's simplicity. It's a daily battle, but since I have done that, I have eliminated a lot of stress from my life. And that was quoted in the Times, the 24th of April in the year 2000. And regarding our relationships, simplicity in our relationships is the fruit of transparency, affirmed by the divine compassion. We are willing for the truth about ourselves to be uncovered. We have no need of hidden agendas. We do not behave towards one person in a way which requires us to hide this from another. We are not driven in our relationships, socializing, for example, only because we fear to be left out. We say no to invitations unless we have peace to say yes. Relationships have to be worked at every day. Instinctively, we avoid people who cause us difficulty or who trigger our pain. As we acknowledge this instinct to flee, we become attentive to them and think of them as God thinks of them. Resentment or fear of another person is commonplace. Resentments multiply misunderstandings and therefore make life more complicated. Forgiveness from the heart makes for a simple lifestyle. But how do we find it within us to forgive? It is helpful to say out loud, even though those concerned are not present, I forgive you, and then ask the Holy Spirit to transfer these words from the mouth to the heart until we feel what we have said. Sometimes we cling to another, or they to us, because we are insecure. This also complicates life. Practicing the art of saying no, guarding the integrity of our spaces and convictions, restores the simplicity of a relationship. When a man and a woman join themselves physically, there is a bonding of the soul as well as the body. Sex with a third person fragments the soul. A person who becomes fragmented finds it more difficult to be wholly available to God or a future spouse. Sexual intercourse is meant to be a fruit of a stable, selfless, growing relationship. Respect, restraint, deepening understanding of the whole person are part of that growth. Also, responsibility and the willingness to have and to lovingly parent a child. Inappropriate use of genitals complicates relationships. As Christ cherishes those who love him, who are described as the members of his body, Ephesians chapter 5, verses 25 to 30. So married partners cherish each other in a tender love which lays down its life for the other. A marriage that is a means of one partner abusing or possessing the other violates this love. Two people become one flesh in order that they can better bless and unify the world around them. They are open to the possibility of bringing to birth a new life. Couples who do not or cannot conceive a child are open to other people in a way that can bring life to them. We may learn from the example of some early Irish Christians who abstained from sexual intercourse during the 3 Lents, the 3 penitential periods, which were the 40 days before Easter, the 40 days before Christmas, and the 40 days following Pentecost. And on Saturday and Sunday night, in order to be focused on God alone. The ability to make deep friendships with people of both genders is our ideal. If, for whatever reason, for example, psychological trauma, deficit of love from a parent, something in our genes or divine calling, we are not able to make a lifelong sexual bonding with someone of the opposite gender, that should not deter us from developing deep friendships with people of our own and the opposite sex. In the Celtic Christian tradition, it hinders rather than helps wholeness of love if we give another genital organs that were not intended for this purpose. If we fall into the temptation to stimulate our cravings through people's bodies, a good corrective is to pray for and mentally release that person whom we are using as an object. Then to become fully present to the person we are called to relate to. Pornography is pervasive and easy to download on the internet. If we find ourselves doing this, we pray for those depicted as sex objects and release them from our view. There is a time to celebrate. Jesus likened himself to a bridegroom. While he was with his friends, he took it for granted. They should celebrate his presence. The Celtic Christian tradition celebrates Christ as one who is always present at the heart of life. And now we bring this to an end and resume it tomorrow. And we just say, I pray that the words I've shared with you have enlightened your heart. Let us now be still as we come into the presence of the divine oneness and surrender all that we have, all that we dream we want to be, to the cosmic Christ. Here in our monastery garden, I welcome you to come and join me. Be still here and relax to the sound of the bells, the chimes, the cascade of water from the fountains, from the waterfall, and allow the sound of the birds singing sweetly and merrily their praises to God. Allow yourself be still and receive the healing rays of Brother Sun. Just relax for this moment and sense the peace of your God flow through every part of you. You may choose to remove your sandals or shoes and allow your bare feet touch sacred earth, and allow Gaia Mother Earth to release her healing energies up through your feet. An energy that allows the plant kingdom to grow. It allows life in the Cathedral of God. And as you sit now, you are relaxed, you are at peace, and all is well. And within your heart, you sense the peace of your God flowing through every part of you, beginning with your mind, relaxing your mind, removing all stress and tension, and the muscles at the nape of your neck and shoulders are now relaxing. Though once taut, they're now becoming supple with the rays of Brother Sun. And with every in-breath that you breathe, you are breathing in the breath of God. Relax now and just sense the peace and the love of God. Let nothing disturb you. Let nothing separate you from this peace. If anything is troubling you, name it, bless it, and release it to God. And conclude with a prayer of gratitude. Be still and relax. And allow your heart celebrate your divinity as a valued child of God. Relax now.